Master Yi finally won a regional qualifier. Someone bubbled at 11, 1, and 1. And what is wrong with the 2v2 format? All that and more on this week's episode of The Winning Point.
Do people even know that we count? Do people
Yes,
even know
you
the
mentioned
lore?
it at least twice in
We
previous
love
episodes.
counting on this. Is really like we are just 2 steps away from being Sesame Street on this channel.
And it's
I like
It really
counting.
is.
It's ironic because I almost never know that it's The Winning Point, episode number 52. I still almost got it wrong, even though this is the second time we've done it. I am Blevins. That is Casanova. That is Charmer. That is Pastry Time. We've got the full house here on The Winning Point. 2 of us just back from RQ Hartford. So that's fun.
Yeah,
I
no,
wonder
it
why
was
I
a
just
blast.
finished sleeving.
Yeah. You're done sleeving now? No more
Yeah.
sleeving to be done?
Yeah,
You have a whole
we'll never
episode.
know.
You could be sleeving cards.
We've
It's
already
lost
made
episode.
3 references to the first open that we did that no one will see. This is this is
very
classic
good.
us.
Very good stuff. Very good
Anyway.
stuff. Yeah, and that was good. Very, very fun. Happy to jump into story time soon enough. Once we get our announcements done for the day. I'll just do the announcements and then we can
Buy
just go.
stuff.
And then we'll just do stuff. We have merch in the store at shop.turnsideways.gg. You can check out the LeBlanc and Pike playmats, which are now just out. Not even pre-order items anymore. They're in
They're ready
early,
to
so
go.
you can get them straight away. Head to the shop. We also have new colors of our dice that are constantly getting back in stock at shop.turnsideways.gg. After that, check out our website at just turnsideways.gg, especially the tracker. If you haven't been using the tracker at these RQs, you're missing out. I think it's the best way to follow your friends, follow the teams you are looking to see how well they're doing at events, or follow the best of race. It is at turnsideways.gg/tracker. And also, we do have a Metafy. Anu has been cooking up some lists. I
Let's
think he's
go,
going to try
Anu.
and fill out that Metafy more and more. He was able to top 64 with Backpack Ezreal and has an Ezreal guide on the Metafy if you want to check that out. For the most part, content on this channel will be free, but sometimes there's extra exciting stuff that we can do where we want to flesh stuff out further than a YouTube video could, and that will live on the Metafy when it does. But those are the announcements. And now it's time for story time at Hartford. Charmer, why don't you start us off? You were in the booth for this one.
I was in the booth, and I also spent a lot of time out of the booth because Pastry was not at this event, and I needed to channel my Julian,
Someone's
my
gotta do
goat.
it.
Someone's got to do it. For those of you who do not know, normally when you're at an event that Pastry is at, when he's on break, you will see him roaming the hall, specifically at the vendors purchasing items, and that was me this time. I was inspired by what I was seeing on the broadcast, and I was inspired a bit what I had seen in Vancouver as well, and I wanted to build some decks. So on my breaks, I went and I probably spent too much money, but I can build Ivern now. I can build Rengar now. I finished almost completely blinging out my Ari, minus signature stuff because I just do not have the pockets for Ari signatures, but normal bling.
You do.
And outside of that, as far as like the broadcast goes, I did have a very good time. I was very happy that they roped me into doing more interviews this time around. I did not get to do hardly any interviews really in Atlanta. It might have only been 1 or 2, and this time I got to do a lot. Specifically, I don't know if it was by design or just happenstance, but I interviewed a lot of cosplayers. I had the opportunity to interview Jubes in her Yumi costume. I got to interview Glitched Goober in her Warded Bush costume, a really awesome Briar. I don't believe it ended up making it to the broadcast, but I also got to interview Diana D'Amico, who is our community manager for Riftbound, and she was on Saturday dressed up as Diana, so it was the Diana cosplaying as Diana. It was a lot of fun. And on top of that, I also got to interview players, which was great. Pretty much Aspirants Climb, like as a whole, was interviewed. The interview itself was short, but I got to talk to all of the players individually. I got to talk to the Merc crew. They're an emerging team. They describe themselves as like the best vibes-based team. I got to talk to a lot of the players that were doing very well after day one. And kind of like this weird, the best way I can describe it is it was like speed dating, but instead it was like speed updating on your day. But that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I was excited I got to do more interviews because I like to talk to people. I like to hear what they're passionate about because that's part of what makes gaming communities fun. Outside of that, as far as the broadcast goes, I'll just be blunt. For me personally, this did not feel like my best broadcast. So if you were watching and you were like, hey, Charmer seems off his game, I'm sorry. I definitely was. You may have noticed there were some technical hiccups here or there, and I did my best to play them off, but eventually it kind of got into my head a bit. And in performance, there's a thing that it's called the yips, right? So like if you're an actor or
Chuck
whatever,
Knobloch, classic.
Yeah. So you have this thing, or if you're not familiar with that, maybe you've seen the movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves, and it's when he talks about quicksand. It's kind of the same concept. It's this idea that like when something happens and you start second guessing it, you become so focused on that you're not focused on the thing you're supposed to do. And that unfortunately did happen to me for parts of my broadcast. So I know that I missed some things that I wanted to highlight. I missed some obvious interactions as well. It was not what I would describe as my best broadcast from an analysis standpoint, and I recognize that. But it also, in many ways, turned out to be very funny because you got to see me have a nervous breakdown live on broadcast. So there's that, I guess. There's a spot pretty specifically that you'll if you watched, you'll know what I'm talking about. But
Eagle Eye View.
Other than that, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. The one thing that I will say about the event is I talked to a lot of players in the hall when I was roaming around, and they said this was their first regional. I mean, a lot. It felt like this was almost like a coming out party of sorts for the East Coast, or at least the Upper East Coast. Everyone was excited. The vibes were great in the room. I saw a lot of people laughing, a lot of people, chatting, meeting new people, just kind of experiencing the community. And I think it's very easy to forget because if you come from other card games, you go to these big events and a lot of times you see the same people over and over again. And that's not to say that I didn't see a lot of the people I've seen at other events. There are the known quantities, the known faces, but these Riftbound events sell out every time. And so there's probably large swaths of the community that only get to go to a couple of RQs or onesie twosies here and there. And so it's nice to see those new faces be so excited. I'll also say that the merch wall was like raided this time around. About halfway through Saturday, I was walking through and most of the statues had already been picked up. A lot of the other cool new swag that was like new to this event, a lot of that was gone. So people seem to just be enjoying their first regional qualifier and having a good time. So, I mean, overall, I had a blast. I never have a bad time at these, whether I'm in the hall or on the desk, and this was no exception.
I think it's funny that you said that it is, many people's first event, because I forget that that's the thing that happens where like the events are capped, selling out every time, and not everyone can go because they also keep getting bigger. So somehow they find a way to put more people in, at least to the main event, which obviously means the event itself is presumably growing because I imagine the people attending the main are the minority, believe it or not. There are usually more people present, or at least very close to even present in the hall that are doing other things and not playing in the main. The other thing is that I do like that we're seeing more faces consistently, and I think that shockingly, Rippon's doing a really good job of building its stars early. I know I've been a big proponent of this on our podcast, but I think it is really important when players are doing well consistently and traveling consistently to be at these events that you support those people. So the fact that as an online spectator that there was this come meet 'em event for the pros that I know Diana had a big hand in organizing, this is the kind of shit I love to see. Like it seems silly, but this is really important for building your sport early, because if you don't have humans you can attach to that you can cheer for, follow, be your villains, be your heroes, whatever, you just stop caring about sports real quick. So the fact that already in year one that they recognize, hey, we have a bunch of people that are traveling and doing well, we should be highlighting them, let's do something extra so they and their fans can interact, that's awesome. And I think as the production continues and like the ecosystem overall in competitive Riftbound grows, this is the kind of thing that's really important. So I was very happy to see this as a online Andy for this event.
Yeah, this was sick. Oh, go ahead, Bluff.
No, just to add on to that, it's just really cool that it's been pushed like that to the point where, back in the old days, like unless you were really cued in and watched all the, if you watched like all of the niche productions and were an SCG premium member, like you didn't know who these players were a lot of the time. And even if you watched like Grand Prix and stuff, you didn't necessarily know who the players that weren't the like top 3 players in Magic back in the day. But now it's like I go to my locals and everyone talks about all of the players that are featured all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I know, like people know who Prismat is, which is crazy considering that we've known Prismat for so long. Cass even longer than the rest of us. It's just kind of crazy that like, oh yeah, Prismat and Alan and the Challenger guys and the lot are like celebrities in our little world, which is just it's just cool. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think that continuing to do this will be very important for our game. I mean, as broadcast talent ourselves, I mean, we've always want this kind of thing to happen. It helps build the storylines for events. It makes our jobs more fun and interesting when we can talk not just about the gameplay itself, but the human element. It is a lot more fulfilling to do so in that way. And I want to continue to see this expanded. I love that we've got the early stars, but I want us to be able to continue to highlight more and more people and parts of the community and these teams at wider scope as well. I mean, love Alan, Priz, the Challenger guys, all that, but they're not like the only best players in the room as well. There's a lot of people that are kind of like these unsung heroes that are slowly building names for themselves. I think even the winner, Factor, Nathan, he never failed to cash an RQ that he had gone to so far. But probably no one knew who the hell he was before he went up and got his win. And I think that there are some other players that are kind of like in that similar vein where they're just constantly putting up good numbers. And I think that the next goal is to make it so when some of these players that are on the cusp over and over again, they're playing really, really good, finally get the one where they spike and get the actual win. I want it to not be a surprise. I want it to be like, this has been due for the player. So that's like that's the next step. It's already like really good what's been happening so far, and the next step is just continuing to flesh out the stories and build our full community, which is great. It's really awesome. But yeah, for me, I had the other side of things. I wasn't on the broadcast. I was competing. I've been the pre-RQ crusher since swapping to a good deck. 4-0'd once again on Diana. I won 2 mirrors, and then I finally toppled Billionaire's Volibear with Diana. He beat 5 of them in Utrecht, including Alan on his run towards nearly making top 8, narrowly missing. But I got his number in the pre-RQ, and I got there with Diana. Very, very fun set with Anton. I love playing against him. He is such a treat for the community and such a treat to play against. And yeah, apparently I am his kryptonite. He has not been able to beat me in a match. I beat him in Lille. I beat him here as well. So Anton, I'm coming for you at every event. We're pairing. I've got you. And then my other win in the pre-RQ was against Ezreal. So I had a very weird day 1 where I won 2 horrible matchups, and then won the mirror twice, which the mirror I was very excited to be playing. I felt like I arrived and I wasn't sure how I felt about the mirror swapping from the Frigid Jewel over to the Acceptable Losses version. And I hung out with Alan the day I got in, and we played a bunch of mirrors, and I got my ass kicked for the most part. But I was learning a lot as we were talking through a lot of different things. And by the time I got to the event, I felt that if me and my opponent both presented Diana, I had probably a 70% chance to win after just grinding the matchup with Alan. It just, with talking with him, he feels like every time that both he and his opponent flip Diana, he has like a 90% chance to win. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I think we can figure things out. And I started feeling really confident, and it did work out that way for the Diana matchups that I played. But the main event did not go how I wanted it to. If you've been following me on Twitter or you've been following the co-stream, you know that I am a certified Master Yi hater, talking about how the deck is very good day 1, a little bit fraudulent day 2. I think this is still fairly accurate, but with the win from Factor and I think some of the adjustments made to the deck, I think the Yi believers, the Yi truthers, I owe an apology to Mr. Yi. I think the deck is actually very, very strong, and it is, in fact, a top 8 threat. Still, the people calling for Master Yi bans, you're trolling. But
also,
like,
I mean,
the deck is good.
He's going to
self
self-ban.
Yeah,
I
he's going to self-ban next set.
honestly.
Yeah, I still don't even think it's the best deck in format, but I think it's incredibly strong. I think it is probably second best. But what I will say is, I think if you had been following me on Twitter, if you've been following the co-stream, you know Houses and I had this kind of like friendly beef and banter going on, where he was saying that I was shit talking him, even though I was really just glazing him. I said that I think that his deck is terrible, and he only top 8'd because he's just a goated player. Is basically what I said. And Houses said I was talking shit, and he's like, oh, whatever. And I was like, I've never lost to Master Yi, which was true. In competitive play, I'd never lost to Master Yi with Diana, and my run had 5 Master Yis on day 1 that I played against. Houses sent his shooters after me, and I took down 3 of them before I finally fell to the other 2, which did end up ending my day 1 run. I took another loss earlier in the day as well. But yeah, it was unfortunate. I got day 1 after a really great showing in Vancouver. I had pretty high expectations, high hopes, especially testing with Alan and Sean a couple days before, but it just wasn't my tournament. I think one of the Master Yis was touched by God. The draws were insane. The other one, I felt like I probably just could have played better, and they had a much more like reasonable draw to play against, and I just did not get there. That is the most cursed image of houses I've ever seen in my entire life. Thank you, production. For anyone on Spotify, sorry,
hands.
I don't even know how to describe
arms
this to
2
you.
different sizes?
Yep.
Why?
I don't know. This is a cursed image. I don't know where this media came from, and I don't like it. But yes, I think houses put a curse upon me. I ended up losing to the Master Yis, and I couldn't convert to day 2, which is a bit of a bummer. But you know, of course, had a good pre-RQ, so I have to be happy with that. So, with that all being said, I did get to finally play 2v2 at an event like this, which is something I wanted to talk about. And even before maybe we dive fully into the Hartford meta, we can even talk about the state of 2v2 a little bit. And to tee that off, I wanted to cook something up because if you follow the channel, you know I have talked a lot of trash on this Yi Yasuo duo that is dominating the 2v2 meta at all these events. And we see people calling for bans on it. They're saying like, oh, Yi is too good in this format, all this stuff. And I just sit there thinking like, have y'all thought about the insane things that you can do in this format? Yeah. Like, how is Master Yi Yasuo the pinnacle of this format? So I was going to go into it, and I was like, I want to cook something and play it. We only really had an hour to actually cook on something before we were trying to get to deck submission. I started crashing out at the deck builder on my phone, and I said, okay, what if we just play Yi Yasuo, because I've never played it, and I need to at least, like, to have this informed opinion where I'm just yelling into the clouds about this deck. I should play it once. So me and my friend, who's a teammate from Flesh and Blood, his name is Lucas, we ended up scraping together Yi Yasuo to play in the event. But I was like not gonna be happy just playing whoever is Yi Yasuo list. I was like, is there a way we can just break the mirror? So 6 a.m. I wake up in a cold sweat, and I send a text to Lucas saying, what if we just put Temptation in the list? Do we just not win the mirror by turning off the masks and turning off the Yi? Yeah, it was really funny. We got to the event, we started playing a few mirrors. Every time we cast Temptation, we immediately won the game. Every time the other people were coming up to me saying, oh, we broke the mirror by putting Fiora in the list, the orange Fiora that like doubles, and I was like, I'm pretty sure my tech just beats your tech. And then we immediately played the mirror again, and somebody had the orange Fiora in, and they got one turn where they got to play it down and push it in with the Yasuo to beat up our guy. And then the next turn, we just Temptation something into the Orange Fiora, turn off their 2 masks, Yi passive and Orange Fiora, and push in just a Master Yi for 4 over their 3 because we pull the crab into it. We're like, yeah, okay. Like, this format feels like people are not even trying to learn how to beat this deck, and they are just crying about the power level because it is strong. I want to still put the disclaimer out there. This duo is very strong. It's good. It would be part of the meta. It would probably top a 2v2 event where people really are trying. I don't think it would win, but it is very strong. I just think there's a lot of better stuff out there. And we got to see some of it at that 2v2 event. I think the strongest thing that it does is it plays 6-5. I think double green is really disgusting. I think 6-5 is maybe an issue, and if they wanted to adjust the format, it would more so be like locking cards so that you can't just play like 6 copies of cards across your 2v2 team,
like
instead of like locking any of these legends out, right? That's something I would look at. But just before we dive into the format as a whole, I want to talk about some of the decks that did extremely well that make more sense to me as top decks. There was Infinite Lux with a Lilia support that was played by my friend T, Ripbound T, who's won some Garens. And the Lilia plays a bunch of removal and counter spells, and you Lilting Lullaby the enemy support and Lux combos. GG. It's over.
I knew it was good.
Yes. The other one was run by Rifting Turtle. He's another Riftbound YouTuber, covers a lot of Victor content. He and his partner were playing Victor and Ezreal, both full control, and just scoring with the tokens. And they destroyed every single Yasuo that they ran into, and they went undefeated at the event. So there's already a couple things that were good, and I talked to a lot of people at the event about a bunch of ideas that you can do. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds because I know we want to cover Hartford as well, but there's a lot that you can go about. So I want to ask you guys what you've been thinking about the 2v2 format and this like Yi Yasuo 60% of the meta self-fulfilling prophecy where it wins every single event because it's 60% of the format.
I mean, there's just no way that could be the best thing ever. Like, as soon as Lux became a deck, I even tweeted, like, surely this has to be good in 2v2. Like, if you have a partner to help you either get to the bottom of your deck to combo or just support you while you're getting there, like, that naturally just seems very, very good. Like, obviously good. I didn't even think about Lilia as a support, which is incredible. But, like, that just obviously seems like something you can do. So there's no way that a bunch of stats on a stick and a Yasuo is better than
there's no way mid-range hell
the
beats
best of whatever. Exactly. There's no way. So it's just like
no shot.
Yeah, already it feels like there's a lot of stuff unexplored. Like Red Rek'Sai feels like a pretty good card in this format. Obviously, I'm a baited hook truther in every aspect of my life, so there's probably something with those decks where if you can even out mid-range and mid-range decks by going bigger than them. I mean, in general, I think it's very funny how, because you've crashed out about Yi twice in 2 different formats in one episode of the podcast, Casanova, which is extremely impressive. And so the numbers Yi, very good, very strong, very solid deck. There's a reason it's highly represented. It does its thing well and very consistently, and it's quite easy to play. But there's just no way that deck will ever be the best deck in a format. I hope not, at least. It will certainly maybe one of them, but it will never be the best.
I think now this format is in an interesting spot where it is almost exclusively played at RQ side events. But
people get sweaty.
People do get sweaty,
but not that
there's
sweaty.
Also people get sweaty, but again, it's almost like the early days of set 1 where it's like, okay, you know, these early online tournaments, like people want to win, they can win a couple $100 or whatever, but we're not seeing people putting the hours into innovating the best possible list, right? We saw that a bit at SCG Vegas, the first one that we did, and then subsequently from there. And once metal cards came out, it's like, it is worth any amount of time you put into it. Like if you win the thing, it's worth it. That's not quite the case yet for 2v2. And not only that, the amount of data, like it is, like you said, Cass, self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, oh, I'm going to my local, I'm going to the RQ that's in my area. That's the one I'm going to be able to go to this year. I want to play 2v2. What should I play? Let's look at the list. Oh, okay, it's Yasuo, and it carries over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So until we start to see more 2v2 events and more incentive to really innovative 2v2, I think it will continue to be this, right? For sure. Yeah. And one last thing I want to point out, and that I found this out from UVS directly. You can technically have your Nexus Knights be run as 2v2. It is in the system to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in 2v2 and want to promote 2v2 and you're like, well, people won't play it if it's not the Nexus Knight format, you can have your store run 2v2 Nexus Knights right now. It is in the system to be able to run it.
So hype.
Yeah.
I want to do that now.
No, I mean,
you can do that.
It's the big thing. So you hit the nail on the head. This was my crash out. My crash out at the event when I talked to anybody was literally this. Is like, there's no way Yi Yasuo is the best combo in this format. It's strong. It does a very powerful thing. It's very extremely easy to play. But there are so many ways to counter it. There are cards that just immediately counter it. And the only reason it wins is it's 60% of the format, and it's 60% of the format because nobody works on the format. Instead, what they do is they scrub out a day one, and they're good. The good players will scrub out a day one. And when they do, they're like, oh, maybe we should play 2v2. Okay, what's good? What won the last one? Yi Yasuo won the last one. Okay, we'll play that. And everyone does that. 60% of the room's on it. They're all strong players. All right, somebody wins again. Now they're like, oh, it wins every single time. Now we gotta ban Yi. Instead of just thinking for 2 minutes about the format, about how you can beat Yi, where you can come to the conclusion that you could play something like a LeBlanc trying to set up for an Otacon and having either Yasuo push it around, or you can have MF to give it ganking when you duplicate it. Otacon just looks at Master Yi's unit and says, kill yourself, and that's what happens, right? Like, that's the way that it works. So I don't understand. That you take 2 minutes to think about the format. You think about Temptation in one of these purple decks and just pushing them together, Tricky Tentacles, whatever. Any of these like things that stack all their units on a single point. Then you turn off Mask, you turn off Yi, you turn off... What does the deck even do? It's just a mid-range deck. As long as you don't just like fall over to Defy, what is the deck even actually doing? And yes, it's strong. It's very strong. It did like 6 charms, 6 defies. These are really nasty cards, and they have a lot of value on the board. Orange Rengar is really good, but like, there is no way that this is the best way to be playing the format. Just do anything else. Think for a minute. Just think. Just for 1 minute. Think about 2v2. You can find something better. I swear. And the format's really fun. Just do it. Okay, there we go. That was basically the rant that I gave like every single person at the event.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty much just that.
He just starts. Someone's like, "Hey, Cass, nice to meet you. Really big fan of the podcast."
Yeah, and I would just do that.
Take a look at my 2v2 deck. What are you doing playing Yi, you idiot?
Yeah.
Think about the format. How could you be this dumb?
And I say this while playing Yi Yasuo, right? Like, I was actively playing the deck with but like, no, that was my crash out.
Shuffling up the deck. Talking to yourself.
Yeah. This was my crash out to people. They'd ask me, because I would be asked like, oh, should Yi be banned in this format, or like, what do you think is good? And I would just crash out. I was like, there's no, this is
just start shaking
after
at the table.
Playing it, I felt like I was doing a strong thing, but I was like, I don't feel like this is that strong of a thing. The first time we played the format, we played Promising Future and got 2 Auroras out on turn 2. Like, even if that's not better than playing Yi Yasuo, surely like you can build something that's like more broken.
Like, to me, this feels like going back in time into the year 1993 and seeing what people are doing in Magic, and it's like, oh, I'm using my Black Lotus to cast Woolly Mammoth, a 3/3 for 4 that has trample, and you're like,
pretty good.
Yes, but here's a deck that is hyper optimized and is nothing but time walks, time warps, Ancestral Recalls, and Moxen and Black Lotus, and with one actually I don't even think it has other cards. I think you just kill your opponent with Ancestral Recall, like the deck as it's sometimes called. Like, that potentially exists in this world, and you are like, the best thing, the thing that's winning all the local tournaments is playing a turn 1 3/3 and passing the turn and hoping your opponent doesn't have lightning bolt on their turn. Like, this is the world that was lived in. And like, if you go back, it's like, yeah, no, that meta probably would exist for a long time. And now you look back, it's like this, you had the tools to get to the moon, and you were fighting with sticks the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what 2v2 is right now.
No, and I know I'll get misquoted into oblivion, like, but Yasuo is very good. Like, it is strong. Like, we played into some decks that were unoptimized, and man, it feels really brutal for them to play against it when you're unoptimized. It's just like the first optimized list that I think people had, and because it was optimized, it's just like destroying everybody who shows up with random chaff, which makes sense. But yeah, that was my rant with 2v2. I just wanted to. I thought it was fun talking to people at the venue and having this rant, and I figured, yeah, it probably should be on the pod as well. But if anyone has more 2v2 stuff, we can stay here for a bit. But if not, I think we can go to Hartford and talk about the top 8
I
in the
have
tournament.
things to say.
Go
I
ahead,
have things
Charmer.
to say
Get in
because
here.
you were there. I walked up to Cass on Saturday before the crash out, and I literally said, I bought this signature Lilia for us to play 2v2. Just full stop.
Let's go.
Because I'm a firm believer that Lilia is a house in 2v2, not just because of the Defies and the Lullaby, but one of the things that people are not realizing or working around is the fact that her thing just says for every friendly temporary. So if you play her with LeBlanc, you get times where you just get to turn her sideways. You don't even pay anything. You're just getting free sprites for doing what you want to do. The other deck, I want to play it in 1v1 anyway, but I'm going to build a 2v2 centric one. So I also bought this Rengar signature because I'm going to play Rengar in 2v2. And the reason that I like Rengar is because Thrill of the Hunt says you banish a friendly unit, then its owner plays it to any battlefield. And so it turns out if your friend is playing all sorts of broken shit, and then you're just like, oh, by the way, do it again. That's a lot of fun. So again, people, think about the other things you can do in 2v2. There are some phenomenal combos, and I think, to echo what Cass is saying, that the biggest reason that 2v2 stays unoptimized is exactly what he said. It's a lot of people are not going to play 2v2. They're going to play the main event, and then when they wash out, they either play the deck that they brought for the main event because they didn't bring something else, or, you know, if you're the Master Yi player, it's easy to just run it back if that's what you played in the main event. Or specifically like with Yasuo lists, because Yasuo is just not played competitively, it's cheap to build, so why build something else? And I think that the moment that you get the good players like your Collins, your Prismats, your whatever focused on 2v2, the moment that they're not playing in day 2 and they actually get to play 2v2 and that was their intention, you're going to see a completely different format. That's my belief.
I just realized if you throw the Hunt a base below, I think Master Yi explodes and all the decks in the room actually just roll over. And that's like the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah. There's some really cool support classes that are pretty unexplored. I think support Rengar is one of them for sure, because Thrill's really good. But I think maybe Red Orange needs a little bit more help before like support Rengar is like a top tier support in the build, but it does some really cool stuff already, right? Yasuo is like always gonna be one of the best because green purple is just such good support combos, and his legend ability is up there. So like Yasuo's always gonna have a place in the 2v2 format, which I think is great. I think that's all because he didn't get to have his chance to shine in like single player, but getting to be like the best support. I think like he and Lilia right now feel like the two best supports, and then is to go from there. I love that there's the support carry dynamic though, and I think people should like when you're showing up just randomly to play 2v2, even if you haven't cooked too much, I think try and see where you can trim in one of your decks to make it more of a support deck and then have a carry deck, and you'll actually do better than if you just bring two random decks that you were playing in 1v1 before as well. But yeah, a lot of different ways to think about support. I think Rengar is one that people probably have always looked at as like, oh, that would be your carry. But actually, Thrill is a really good support tool, and you can kind of play a full like support Rengar, and actually play the removal tools in red and some of the buff spells for more engine kind of go there.
The thing with Rengar, because again, his whole like you get to give +1 might to a unit, right? So you can also buff your friends' units, but the sheer fact that you've got your ambush options as well, which are kind of support-ish. You've got the red one that you can play like as a reaction, and it doesn't even have to be to where your teammate is in combat. You could just play it to the base to set up you going on offense, but then still give the +1 to their unit while they need it for the combat. There's just a lot of stuff that you can do, and that's just two champions, right? Like I think Ahri is severely underrepresented, and it's not just because I'm a homer, right? If the thought process behind Yasuo Yi is Yi gives you a bunch of passive benefits, well, it turns out Ahri does that too, and you still get access to a bunch. You still get the Defies, you still get all of that stuff. Like there is just more in 2v2 than what people are giving it credit for.
At least RE was popular in Origins, so at least people have tried a little bit, but they haven't. It wasn't popular anymore, and it still could be pretty good. And especially we have another set coming out, right? And that might make maybe blue green is even better as a support class than it already is, and then suddenly like RE looks to be up there. So it's cool.
That's why I brought it. I was like hoping we would play 2v2 at the hotel, and I brought Frigid Jewel RE, which I think is phenomenal for a support setup in 2v2.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully more 2v2 content on the horizon. I'm finishing up the studio, and it is something that we want to do.
Let's go.
I'll try and put my money where my mouth is and build some of these combos and try and get some content out to y'all. I don't have a date to promise when that will be, but it will happen. Let's talk a bit about
I don't have another 2v2 thing, but I do have a Yi redemption, a Yi revenge story for you, because I won a skirmish over the weekend where in round 1 I lost to Yi and then played that Yi again in the finals and took him down.
There you go.
Let's go.
With Lucian.
There you go.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Classic.
Beautiful.
So
cinema
taken down.
All right.
Well,
absolute
speaking of Master Yi.
Yeah,
they did win. We kind of spoiled it.
We buried the lead on that one.
A few times.
The Yeet.
So yes, Master Yi ended up winning RQ Hartford in the hands of Factor from Team Kachow. And he's been, we mentioned earlier that he's actually been doing a really good job at all these RQs. He is placed very, very highly consistently, but this was his first top 8. He's lost multiple win-ins at this point. This was his first top 8 though, and he gets to take it all the way with Yi. He was the only Yi in top 8. So once again, the conversion from Yi going from insane going to day 2 to top 8, only one surviving. Into a sea of blurple decks, blue decks in general. He's able to get it done, taking down only blurple on the way there, beating a Diana, then an Ezreal, then another Diana. And I think a lot of people were talking about how, is Yi the best deck in format? Well, I guess, even before this, we can mention the Lux, Annie, and Pyke also making it. I think Pyke being the biggest surprise. And then for some people, maybe Lux being the biggest surprise, thinking about where to rate it. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Lux. We can do that before we talk about what we think best is in format pastry as well. Like Lux actually was able to make top cut on the Infinite, and Challenger TCG's Olivia made it look very good.
Deck sweet. I think I did say I think this deck was good. I think it can win, although I do think its matchup spread has to be pretty good for you to actually win in RQ, but obviously it's a deck that's capable of top 8ing. It's probably outside the top 5 as far as how good the deck is, which probably good for the doomers that were worried that combo was going to ruin their game again. But I'm glad to see Time Warp. It's funny, if you check Discord DMs, Cass and I were talking about this deck as I was learning the loop, and I was like, wait, this seems so stupid. Why don't we just play Time Warp instead of all these clunky pieces that don't do anything? And it turns out that is actually the biggest change from the best of in Utrecht to here in Hartford. And I know that Olivia worked with the best of winner from that event in Europe. So they were cooking, and they decided that actually the combo is not needed, at least in the main. I think it's probably not needed at all, except for maybe time constraints in your Swiss rounds being a factor you need to consider, especially when you're trying to win in extra turns. Shoutouts to Amulet Titan for ruining things everywhere. But I do think, I am curious if there's a version of this deck where being a bit slower is worth it, because every draw step you get with this deck is so valuable, because you're trying to get to the bottom of your deck, but if you deny your opponent points, even if you put them off tempo for a turn or two, that's often the space you need. And it's an interesting tension between just slamming Progress Day and drawing 5 and trying to get to the bottom versus just playing a different spell, cantripping off of it, hopefully for something like maybe Drag Down or Singularity, and then but keeping your opponent at bay for long enough to get to the bottom of your deck. So I do think the best version of this deck at some point will be a control deck with a combo finish. I think right now it's still kind of just a combo deck that plays some interaction that makes sense, but I don't know if we have the tools yet to make an actual control deck with a combo finish. So I'm expecting this deck to get better as more cards get released. But even in the current format, I do think I'm going to try and experiment with slower versions of this deck, because I think that is the most sensible way to build something like this. Although I will say the amount of Downstroke Dramatics was a card I did not have on my radar that's very, very good. It was in both these lists. I think that's probably the biggest innovation since Fruit Loops kind of got unlocked. The other thing just kind of being like, you'd be surprised the fun stuff you can do. When I've been playing this deck, I think the thing that has been the most fun and also the most surprising is how quickly you can dig if you just have an Echo and a Sacrifice that you can use. You can just kind of use them in like the mid game, and especially with Time Warp, if you can chain them. This deck plays 3 blue seals for that reason. You can win from some pretty ridiculous positions, and it's really fun to find those lines. So big fan.
Yeah, there's definitely the spots where the Luxes have been forced to combo off earlier than they want to, and being able to see Olivia and some of the better Lux players find that out is actually a lot more interesting. I think the more interesting combo list that did pretty well at this event, though, was the Gutter Palace Jhin that made it into the top 32.
My new
KS,
favorite deck.
Or Terry being able to do that was very, very cool. That's closer to an actual true control list with a combo finish than the Lux list is. But, we're not going to talk about that too much on the pod. I did actually get to record a video with him after the event. We're going to have that edited and might have come out before this episode, or it'll come out soon on the following week. Stay tuned. Shout out to Silverfuse for letting me use her camera equipment that she had for recording to basically get that thing out. But yeah, it was really nice to talk to him about it, and hopefully, we will have a video, or there is a video, one of the two, about that on the channel. But yeah, other than that, it was Priz on yet another top 8. And then we had Ezreal and Diana. And there has been a lot of argument about best deck in format, and is it just Master Yi? I think I heavily believe still, as I've said forever on this pod, that it is still just Diana. And I think this rep in top 8, compared to the amount of the decks in the field, there were so many more Yis than Dianas. And yet we still have 3 in top 8 again, and it still made the final yet again.
It is really hard for me to call a deck that's not Diana the best deck in the format right now. However, I will say, and I was thinking about this pretty much all the last couple days since Hartford, and even in Utrecht, and after each of these RQs, I've been like, this is the first time in Riftbound, and it's the first time that I can remember in a card game where I'm like, I feel like we could get another 3 months out of this format and new stuff would still happen. I feel like we could have another season of RQs with this format, and we would see more stuff. We've had a very different look for all. The meta has been super cool, and it's the taking the next step, taking one more progression, taking one more, and then seeing, Master Yi come out on top, seeing Diana come out on top, seeing, Annie come out. All of these things have happened. Whereas in Origins, it was okay, let's get something else that's not Yi and Kaisa. And then obviously set 2 proper, it was okay, there was a Draven mistake that happened. And then set 2.5, I think we could have gotten some more time and been good. Post ban set 2, I think was another we did not get enough time on that, but that was kind of unintended. But yeah, this format, I feel like we could keep going. But I always want the new set, but I feel like we could get some more out of this format.
Yeah, this format's fantastic.
I think it's a good sign for the game's future when a bunch of bans happen and all of a sudden everyone's like, wait, I could play this set for a little bit longer. Wait, I could play this metagame for a little bit longer. And I think
it felt like
that
a new
feeling
set
has only gotten better. Yeah, I know you jokingly called it set 2.5, but there was a reason for that. And I think both our previous metagames have been excellent. And as excited as I am for Vendetta, especially given the domain combinations on the horizon, I'm I don't know. It's very rare that you wish metagames went on longer in card games, because these cadences are very valuable and very exciting. And yet, here I am. I guess the nice thing to remember in the future is for 5 years from now, if you want to, in some games there's things called snapshot metas. I know pre-mod is really big in Magic right now, for example, where sometimes it's just fun to play old formats. And I think both set 2.5, post-ban Draven, and the 3-set meta here with Unleash will both be excellent things to come and revisit. And I'm sure if you put up money for a serious tournament. It was a throwback tournament 5 years from now. Decks we did not expect will probably do well at that tournament, which is usually a good sign for a game.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the graphic that we just had and also just pose a thought experiment to you, because we have the meta day one graphic that's up right now. I also agree. I think that if I had to pick like what I thought the best format, or excuse me, best deck in the format would be, it would be hard for me to pick something not Diana. But here's the thought experiment that I would like to pose to everyone, right? Is it possible that Annie is close or equal to Diana, but we don't consider it because of the representation? And I ask this question because we don't see Annie here, and yet Prismat continues to be on a tear with Annie. And it's easy for us to say, okay, well, it's Prismat. He's a phenomenal player. Absolutely. But I've talked to a lot of people who have said things at these regional qualifiers like, normally at my locals, I play Annie, but here I'm playing something else because I don't want to compete with Prismat for the best of. Yeah. And so I do wonder, as cool as having the specialists are, if there are players on Annie or maybe Set and they don't want to compete with Colin or whatever. I wonder how much that impacts things, because I personally think that Annie is way underrepresented and it's a great deck in the current meta. And obviously Prismat continues to do Prismat things with it. But I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are with the potential for some of these outstanding players maybe pushing people off of decks that could be considered much better or higher ranked.
So here's something that might be a hot take, I suppose. I do think Set is a deck where that is a specialist deck, and Colin is the specialist. I don't think that deck is actually that good. I don't think it's a top 5 deck, but I think Colin is very good at that deck and is clearly capable of navigating with it. Annie, even though the Prismat buff is very real, clearly, with how dominant they've been on this deck, I think there's a chance Annie, the deck, is better than Aurelia. And Aurelia is a top 5 deck.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't think it's as good as Diana and Yi, which I think are the clear 1-2. And there's maybe one other deck in there that is better than Annie. And I do think Aurelia is still a top 5 deck. So I think Annie is a top 5 deck, and we do not see that based on results. And yet, it's all this to say, like, yes, the player matters, but it is not just the player. I think that deck is actually just insane. It's just really, really hard to play.
Yes, I'm pretty much with you. I don't think Set is bad, though. I think it's the most underrated deck of this format. I actually think it's incredibly good into the metagame, but not top 5. So you're saying not top 5? Okay. Fully agree. Yeah. I think it's really underplayed, probably because nobody wants to contest Colin. It's also incredibly hard, and you can ask Colin about this too. He likes it because it tickles his brain, right? Because it's an incredibly difficult deck to play. It requires a lot of investment, and then you're fighting Colin to be playing a maybe 6th to 8th best deck in the format. Maybe not the best investment of your time. Annie, on the other hand, I totally get. This one, I agree with you, could be top 5 for sure. Could be better than Aurelia right now. In fact, I just would say yes. I think she is just better than Aurelia right now. And you see the people who invest the time in are doing extremely well. Gonkra also been invested in Annie. She has placed extremely well over the past few events. Has not been able to chase down Priz, but she's been right nipping at his heels at every single event. You can even see him talk about it a lot of the time. He's like, we're at X1, but Gonkra is also just right there. So he keeps having to run away. He keeps winning, but it's very, very close every single time. What I will say is, though this format looks extremely wide, and it is, I had a lot of conversations with Alan and with Sean Dhaliwal, or Diwali, at the event, as I was working with them on the deck a bit, in them helping me get prepped for the event as well. And Sean is convinced that we are actually secretly in a tier 0 format. Diana is by far the best deck. You only actually lose games because you screw up yourself. And he believes he's piloting the deck at 70%. And I, to be honest, think he's probably right. I think this deck is one of the most difficult TCG decks I have ever played in my entire life. I think that a lot of, both Alan and Sean are kind of under the impression that often they are losing to mistakes that when they watch other Diana players play, they feel like they're pretty persistent mistakes. And the deck is so strong that even when you're making a pretty large amount of errors, you're actually still just winning, and you don't even know you're making some of these errors because it's hard to realize it in the spot because it feels like it is safe enough. there are some bad matchups that she does have. It's not that she is favored into literally every single deck in the room. A really great example of that is Ezreal, which is why I think that was a pretty fantastic bring for the Ezreal specialists to be able to try and dominate the Dianas that they were running into. And we saw Brady be a very big winner of that, making top 8 and defeating plenty of Dianas on that road. But this deck is pretty insane, and the fact that we never saw it dominate in the way Draven did, or even, like, I guess, well, I mean, no, it is dominating more than Yi. Yi is just dominating the player base as far as number of people playing it, but to never see it dominate like Draven or dominate like Kai'Sa in set 1 is really interesting from the perspective of, talking to the best Diana players and them feeling like they're not even playing it at 100%, and they think it's one of the hardest decks that they've ever played. Sean, coming from Flesh and Blood, is a very hard game. This is still harder, he's saying, than anything else he's ever played. And every single time he plays it, he says he gets a new brain wrinkle, and I feel the same way. Pretty crazy deck, and pretty crazy stuff that Sean was saying about it. And it just felt really interesting to me that we may have been in a tier 0 format the whole time, and just nobody, not even the best players in the game, could get to the level needed to fully prove it, which is pretty sick.
I do think it's
pretty sick.
I think it's the only S tier deck in the format, which is, that maybe also is a hot take, but I don't know how much further ahead of the rest of the format it is that it's problematic. But to your point, on a long enough time horizon, would it be? Don't know. We may never know at this point.
We probably will never know. Yeah. All right. That's all I've got on Hartford, except for can't get away without a little bit of controversy. Can't have an RQ,
of course,
without some controversy. You thought that we would get out of this without any drama? You thought we wouldn't have drama on the winning point? The drama this time is Goobums, TFT Pro, somebody I've known for a while because of that, placed 9th with a score of 11-1-1, bubbled out of the top 8. I set this up like Goobums did something bad. No, something bad happened to him. He bubbles out of the top 8 at 11-1-1. The player who has bubbled the most TFT tournaments lifetime of any TFT Pro has now bubbled in Riftbound, and he's the first player to not make a top 8 with an 11-1-1 scoreline. We have consistently on the pod and as a community, I think, talked about how this could happen, and it would be extremely problematic if it did, because if you place that well at a tournament, if you go 11-1-1, I believe you should be in the top 8. You should top cut. And if you make day 2, feasibly, you should be live to make top 8 of this tournament. Why is it that you're making day 2 at 6-2 and being immediately unable to make the top cut? Proposed extra round, that's logistical issues, I understand. Starting on Friday, more logistical issues, right? You're trying to keep it more casual. It's an RQ. You don't want to have players who want to fly in on Friday not being able to play in the RQ. I understand that one. That one seems like the worst solution. But an extra round, or we've seen asymmetrical cut in something like Pokemon, so everyone at X2 gets a chance at the end of the day to try and make it towards that top 8 to make it to the final. There are solutions, and personally, I'd like to see you a bit better, because day 2 to being dead for top 8 already is bad, and this is worse.
Yeah, Alan's tweet, I think, was the best one I saw. It was basically just like, yep, it's an issue. There's a bunch of solutions. They'll probably solve them at some point. We'll see. But the game is very new, I think, is the thing I will say. Not in defense of what happened. I think that obviously sucks. I just think there are more problems than we have time to solve them currently.
Correct.
And that's not surprising in a game that is 6-ish to 11-ish months old. I don't know how long it's been exactly. But if there's one thing I think that I can consistently applaud Riot for, and by extension their partners, over the course of like their lifetime as a company that makes competitive games that people enjoy playing, and I've been around many of them and the company for a very long time. As a reminder, I do not work there. I work with them. I do not work for them. Just as a important disclaimer that I haven't had to say in a while. But obviously people know me from my work with and for them in the past, so I do have to position myself carefully as someone that is representing them, whether or not I actually literally work for them or not, which I don't. But I believe like they will figure it out, because clearly the community cares about the game and wants to play it, and Riot clearly cares about giving them the best game they can. And this is all without any other high-level tournaments being a thing. There's no RCs yet. We've had only RQs, and the number keeps getting bigger. At at some point it was going to happen, and it finally did. So I know it will get fixed. I just do not know when. Do not ask me. I don't know how to make the decisions, but it is good for you to voice your concerns in a constructive way in the platforms that you have. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing is everyone understands that there could be a solution, and there's going to be costs in some form or fashion to all of those solutions. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing as a community and as an individual playing in the community or being a part of it is we need to be open to them trying things in some form or fashion, right? Like you go, oh, fix the problem. And then they try to fix it, and if it doesn't work out perfectly, people will go, oh, well, they made this horrible decision. Why did they make this worse? It's like, yeah, but you wanted them to fix it. There's not like really a theoretical way that you could test these things, right? It's like, oh, let's just go grab 3,000 people and see what a tournament looks like when you run an extra round. Like, let's just test that out in a non-live way. Can't do it. They are building the plane as it is flying. We're all passengers on it. So complaining with the pilots about how the plane is not going fast enough is not going to help. So that's all I'll put out about that. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, but we're all part of it, and we should all be trying to help it, not complaining about how it's not fixed yet. That's my piece. That is my piece, and that is the Winning Point episode for this week. Thank you, everyone, for watching and liking and all that good stuff, because it all does help. A lot of stuff happening this week, and we'll have even more in the coming weeks. But that is going to be it for this episode. So for Casanova, for Charmer, for Patreon, for the whole crew from Sideways, I've been Blevins. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
I'm turning sideways.